what the hell has happened to the general man? Men used to solve the world's problems, and now they're shirking responsibility, destroying us. It's destroying us as a society.
You can't say anything, because if you do, you're against the grain, and now their heads are so frazzled.
We've now had that generation of softness come in. But I just want to sit on my Xbox and play FIFA. I think it's about time we address one of the biggest, most pressing problems that we are facing as a society today. And I feel like as two men, we are actually very suited.
Good spot.
Yeah, we're very suited to talk about it. And really that issue is, what the hell has happened to the average or the general man these days? Because I feel like we've fallen down into a state of complete disaster where no one takes any responsibility anymore. We're the last ones to roll our sleeves up and get our hands dirty. We complain all the time. There's always something wrong. There's always something the matter. And we've decided that instead of fixing problems like we used to and getting stuck in, we bury our heads in the sand and blame everyone else. And I need to know what's going on. Why is this happening?
We're turning into women.
That's a bad...
No, that's a joke, obviously, but
it's a bad start.
No, we're not. But I'll go back to how it was when we were kids and how we were brought up, and it's dad saying about, you got to be a provider, you got to make sure you add your value to yourself, look after people, be chivalrous, open the door, be polite, pay on the first date, all these sorts of things that seem to have all gone by the wayside now. And I remember seeing videos online where people they ask them the question, do you think you should pay on a first date as a guy, or at least offer? And they're like, well, no, not any. No, I don't. I think it's 50-50. Like, it's not right to be paying on a first date. And it's like, how we've fallen so far down I don't even know what's happening. I think equality's kind of clouded people's judgment. They're picking what they want, really, in male roles.
I think it's for us to fight back, though. I think men used to solve the world's problems from a logical point of view. Now, women certainly have their place. They're a massive, massive support to men and how we operate. But from our household anyway, and from, I believe, history to have demonstrated, is that men were always the logical solvers of problems. If there was an issue, we would find a way to get it sorted. If there was a manual task that needed to be performed, we would get it done. We'd get our hands dirty and we'd get stuck in, whether it was a war, whether it was a famine, whether it was an issue with the general economy, with money, with building housing. It was always the men that were the ones at the front to try and solve the problems, and having then a supportive woman back home or someone in their lives to help them was just such a winning combination. And now men are just deciding all of a sudden that they're shirking responsibility. They don't need to get stuck in. They don't need to solve problems. They complain at everything. And I don't know why we've turned into such a bunch of pussies. And I exclude myself from that because I know how I choose to live my life and make sure that I am the first one in. And even at work the other day, I saw we've got two young lads that have started with us. Brilliant job they're doing. And I play little games in my own head because we've taken them on at the same time. They're both 18. And I play little games in my own head where I'll set them a task to do. They'll both have the same task. Like, very simply, there were some boxes in my car that needed to come out, and I did 3 on my own. So I took the bulk of the load myself because I just think there was 6 in total. And I just think that's right because I want to do the most. It's an opportunity. And then the lad who took 2, and he was the second one who was like, I want to do the next most. And then there was another one who was happy with the 1. And it's like, well, I'm carrying 3, the one's carrying 2, and the one's carrying 1. And I just thought it was a perfect example of certain people's mindsets nowadays where they're happy to do the bare minimum and watch everybody else do the hard work. And I think if you are like that, as a man especially, you need to take a long, hard look in the mirror. Now, in this example, 2 18-year-old lads, very different and very easy to say they haven't got everything figured out yet. So it's not an immediate, your life's over, sort it out, get it wrong. But I think a little course correction from time to time, because I did mention it to them, and I think it's one of those things that a little course correction from people, where we had our dad who very much was that hard hitting voice at the top to say, like, you're not doing enough, you've not done a good job, you're lazy, pull your socks up, roll your sleeves up, any of these sort of, get down and dirty and get in the mud and get stuck in. And I think that's gone. And I think a lot of men now are just allowing this complacency to take place, and it's destroying us. It's destroying us as a society. And I also think it's allowing women to then move into these roles of masculinity and take over, because they're thinking, well, men are the ones that should lead, in my opinion. And we always have done. And now we've removed ourselves from the leadership position, and that position is now empty, which is forcing women to have to take it, which I think in turn loses their respect for us. And if you're a man that's got no respect, certainly from a woman that you're trying to date or that you're in a partnership with, the largest cause for divorce is due to financial issues and struggles. And again, I feel it's a man's responsibility to provide and protect for his family. And if you're not in that leadership position and you've given it up because you're too lazy and you don't want the stress and hassle and pressure, then the women are having to assume the role of both male and female, and they're becoming more masculine. And then that's allowing this, I think, increasing movement of, let's say, a more masculine type male, or female rather, where they feel like they have to protect and provide for themselves, which I think is in turn leading to its actual ultimate outcome. The Bonnie Blues of the world shagging 1,000 blokes. Sorry, 1,050.
Peak feminism, that is now. We've reached it.
Exactly, peak
You can't
feminism.
say anything, because if you do, it's, you're against the grain. And now their heads are so frazzled that it's like, well, hang on, we said that women should be allowed to do absolutely anything they want, and now they are doing anything they want. And now those same people that were wanting equality are now complaining at Bonnie Blue because she's doing what she wants. And it's like, well, hang on a minute, and it just doesn't make sense.
Us again. We're still here. That subscribe button is feeling awfully lonely. Give it a click.
And the like. Now, on the relationship side, I think it gets clouded a lot from the fringes, and people talk about, oh, well, I'm a woman and or men that don't want to take the mantle, and it's the woman in their relationship, and the media seems to focus a lot more on those. But the vast majority of people, anyone I've ever spoke to, it's like, no, I want my boyfriend or whatever to look after me. I want him to be doing this, and I want him to open the door, and I want him to do these sorts of things. And I think most people have been beaten down so much by the media, and it's like that, white straight man is just so far down the pecking order at the moment that, they probably have just got to a point where some people are thinking, you know what, then you pay for the date, then I can't be arsed, because all the dating's down. Well, you wouldn't think from Tinder, but maybe it's not really dating, is it?
Well, not really. I'd say relationships are down. I know so many people that, are in, my friend has just been in a relationship for 5 years, has just had it come to an end. And people are always searching for that next best thing. But the reality is, I go back to that, what I was saying, it's like men are just giving up way too easily, and just instead of taking it on the chin and saying, I am here and I am responsible for fixing this problem, they're just giving up, walking away, turning their backs and saying, somebody else will fix it, or it's not my problem, or why should I bother? And it's just such a weak mindset. It's such a weak attitude. And where it's come from, I have no idea, because I do attribute some of it to that mommy coddling, where I heard Joe Rogan, it's a great quote, he always says that weak men are created during those easy times, which are created through the strong men which were produced during hard times. And the World War II, 1 and 2, both incredibly tough times, producing those strong men looking to create easier times. We've now had that generation of softness come in. And if you were to take an army of, and I don't mean the ones, because we still have some absolutely tough people that are in our special forces and are in our armies, albeit far less of them. But if you were to take the same number of people required to fight in World War II from each country around Europe and ask them to perform on the same level that the people in 1939 to 1945 did, it would be embarrassing. It would be like a girl fight, like slapping each other and like calling out insults and
they'd be doing their hair before they go over the top.
And that is literally where they're at. Isn't it fascinating how that's happened? So I think that there's something that has gone massively wrong, and I believe that as a man and as men, that we should be leaders, leading the way from the front, taking on the hard tasks, taking on the shit, taking on that position where you're not going to get the immediate recognition, you're not going to get the immediate respect, but you do it anyway.
Yeah.
And a lot of men now have just decided, well, I'm not going to bother and be lazy.
Well, I think that this is one of the reasons why Andrew Tate becomes so prominent, because the men that don't really want to feel like that, but feel like they may be forced to feel like that, see this kind of person that embodies masculinity to the absolute peak. He's fighting in his Thai boxing, I think, and then he was doing all the MMA side. Then he's like goes gym, and then he's like, making his money. He got his cars, and everyone's like, oh, I want to be like that and do that. And he's managed to cultivate such a following of younger men, because they're like, actually, you know what? I have had enough of this, and I do actually want to like fight back, and I'm not like a pussy hole. It's like, and I do want to do these things. So they've followed this person, and maybe he goes too far with it on some things, but he doesn't on others. And I do agree with some of the things he says, and don't agree with some of the things he says. But it's created from this environment that we find ourselves in, that all men just have been beaten down.
It's like you say that is again a part of the modern dilemma of men, because then who's your role model? Who's setting the standard? And the reality is, because everything's become so extreme, you've got an extreme side to the left, or you've got an extreme side to the right. And people now can't find a happy medium between the two, which is usually where most men should sit. But I think some core fundamentals that every man should be able to be, and traits they should have: resourcefulness, being able to solve problems straight away, not showing fear and not showing signs of stress and wear, I think is massive. Because again, even when we're asked to do things now, the first reaction is it's a huff, I've got to do that. And the reality should be, it's like, I get to do that. I get to do the hard work. I get to learn. I get to grow. I get to embrace challenge, rather than, but I just want to sit on my Xbox and play FIFA. And it's like, well, you need that toughness, because that pressure eventually creates the diamond, and that rough exterior that you then build that armor against through doing tough shit, not through being wrapped in cotton wool and not doing anything tough. I remember my big introduction to that was, first of all, obviously our dad, who really forced it on us as young kids, making sure that we were doing jobs around the house, making sure we were being respectful, making sure that we were doing as we were told, and learning about respect. But then the next one was really starting boxing and starting competitive sports. Boxing is obviously always a great one, because it is like the ultimate close quarters sport with another man, where you could end up dying. The reality is, there's so many deaths even in a modern day. This year, last year, there were boxers and fighters dying directly because of injuries sustained in the ring. So when you're going into a sport like that, you have to be prepared, and you have to have a element of mental toughness. and it's something that you've got to face head on, but then you get hardened by it and you grow and you learn and you become resilient over time through getting punched in the face, and then you think to yourself, well, that was a bit of shit.
Don't want that to happen again.
That was a bad day at the office, so you learn not to do it, but you don't turn around, cry, run away and say, I'm never doing it again. Unfortunately, this expression of man up has become toxic, and we can't say it anymore. We can't say man up. But the reality is, I think 90% of people need to man up these days and actually grow a pair and probably get punched in the face. In fact, definitely get punched in the face. I know a load of people that deserve a good smack. And it would be good for them. It wouldn't be done out of malice or an intent of hurting them, but it would be done for an actual... It would be a blessing. I know so many people that benefit from a good smack, and I should do a list.
I mean, to be honest, I think it'd be a good idea to in school have like some sort of, put boxing into school for men, just to toughen them up a bit more, or even like force part conscription from the Conservatives. I didn't think that was even a bad idea for a bit like once a week for 12 months just to go to like a military style camp, because that's what we're going to need extremes to turn this flipping ship around. Now we're past the point of just, let's just learn about it. It's like, no, we actually need action at this point.
Well, that is where men generally tend to be more favoured, is the action side. We don't learn from most men. Again, it's what I tend to find is that watching a video or hearing about it doesn't really do it for us. We're more very much of a, I think, is it kinesthetic, where you're actually doing the type of learning.
We want the pain.
Yeah, you need that punch in the face, and bringing it to schools is brilliant. And there's a guy, again, another lad who works with us, who was Portuguese. He joined the army. Whether it was conscripted, I'm not 100%. I believe it was taken away from the mandatory service. I've read Arnold Schwarzenegger's book. It was mandatory army service for them. And you have to go and be around other men in a tough environment, learning from each other, working together, solving problems, being resourceful, going through pain and stress, and then becoming hardened by it. So it helps you later in life. Whereas now it's all about, let's make life as easy as possible, make everybody as soft as possible, but then let's all expect to be nice to each other and not call each other mean names. And because if we do, we all sit and have a cry about it. And I just think that we're going in the wrong direction. I think the society, and we are seeming to have a bit of a U-turn thanks to characters like Andrew Tate and Donald Trump. Now, I'm not saying they're great for society, but I think that they're certainly beneficial from the sense of swinging the pendulum back towards making men again.
Yeah, I think when these figures come up, you realise you've gone too far one way. Is pretty much what's happened. We know, we've gone way too far when we can't even distinguish what a man and a woman is anymore. You know what I mean? Like, that's when we've gone way too far, because the average people are protesting about a lot of this stuff that's going on at the minute. So, it's gone way too far. So, I mean, even flying the flag ages ago, I mean, I remember Piers Morgan, he used to say a lot about this stuff like years ago when he was on just, normal television, like Good Morning Britain or whatever it was called. But, it's going to need, like I say, it's going to need extremes, it's going to need something in schools, it's going to need a lot more discipline, it's going to need changes in the school system. But, we try and do our part by talking about it, and people listen and, I know, get in touch and say, you know what, it's resonated with me, and actually I've taken up the gym or taken up boxing or taken up this, and then they actually turn their life around and say how it benefits them, as a mental health, well, as something to do for your mental health. Going to the gym is one of the best things you can possibly do in terms of building yourself up and building up confidence. I mean, I remember when I first went to the gym, it's like a twig. Didn't have a clue, you're shuffling around, you're a bit like, oh God, I don't want to go over there. And it's all a bit awkward. And it's like that with everyone, but the more you go, the more you build up your confidence. And it's like that with anything in life.
But that's building that hardened exterior and going through the stress. And you can't become hardened to something without first going through the pain. Like, you have to go through that pain, and we thrive off it, but we've avoided it, and we're continuing to avoid it. And that is why, again, male suicide is still the biggest killer of men under 30 or potentially even 40. It's the biggest killer for us, because we aren't hardened to the outside world. So because we're wrapped in cotton wool, we find ourselves growing up in this mommy coddled environment where everything's soft. We can't be men. And then when the world slaps us with a harsh face of reality, we end up not being able to handle it and not being able to cope. And all this pressure then gets added onto our shoulders all at once, because we now have to leave home and be a man. And we're all there scratching our heads going, I don't know what to do. And I also haven't got the ability to do it, because by all accounts, I'm still a boy and I've not become a man yet. And I think genuinely for me, I think there are two things that happen in a boy's life that will transcend him to become a man. And I think the first thing is, and it's horrible to think, fortunately we still have him, is you lose your dad. As the main patriarch of the family, losing that father figure, because we still know that he's there, and we still lean on him and use him for advice. We still use him if there's a problem in certain facets of our life. But even with that, on the holiday, we've just been on a nice family holiday to Rhodes, and even now I find myself looking...
Brace yourself, careful.
I find myself now where the table has turned and the pupil becomes the master, still has the huge amount of respect there. But it's like I was driving the car, wasn't I? So I would drive the family around the island in the car. And again, was the fun video. We had a fun night in Rhodes with the punch machine that was on the side of the road, which was hilarious.
I've actually got the video of that, so I can put it on potentially.
We'll have a look. And yeah, he had a bad back, bless him, but I think the power in his right hand has all but left him. And again, that leaves me as being the one to have to protect the family if, let's say, something was to happen where there was a physical altercation. That mantle would be passed over to us too, whereas it used to be our dad. So we, as much as we've not lost him yet, we're still in a position where we are now becoming the protectors of the family. So losing your dad is a massive, massive jump that transcends boys into becoming men. And I think the second one is, again, I go back to the word provide, is moving house.
Definitely.
Is leaving home and no longer needing your mom to wash your clothes, your dad to pay your bills, and that self-sufficient lifestyle where you're now having to worry about these things yourself. I think is that other second piece to the puzzle that transcends you. And we've both moved out now a long time ago, but people are moving out later. Again, a lot of it is due to the current economic crisis that we're in. But again, I think as a man, just because we're in an economic crisis and everybody's complaining about the house prices and everyone's blaming the government. And again, I go back to, this is really a problem with men. Oh, it was so much easier to buy a house when you were our age, Dad. So, work harder, find a way, be resourceful. There is a way to do it. Can it be done? Well, it can be done. Why don't you go do it then? Oh, it's not fair. Right, well, you can either wait around for the world to become fair again, which guess what? It never is and never will be. So you'll be waiting till you're dead. Or you go and take some action and do something about it.
Well, some communities, they figure out how to do it, and they just house share and get lots of different people to do HMOs and things like that. You know, and you don't have to pay anywhere near as much rent. You're sharing all the electricity and doing all the same things. And then you're more self-sufficient. But people don't want to do it. Well, certain people don't want to do it.
Well, they just don't want to take on the responsibility, which again I go back to is we've shirked responsibility as a species of male. We just don't want to take that responsibility on or take the pressure on because we're all so soft. So people aren't moving out until they're 26, 27, 28. I know lads are still 30. He's at home still. He's never moved out. And I'm thinking to myself, like, how on earth are you going to survive, or how can you even call yourself a man when you've still got your mom washing your pants. How embarrassing. Like, to me, that's so messed up. And if that was me, genuinely, I'd be so embarrassed to even show my face outside. I'd have to walk. I'd have to. And I can see why. And again, I'm going to get shot for this, but I can see why there's an increase in all these trans and LGBTs, because I'd be half thinking to myself, if I've got my mommy still washing my pants for me at the age of 30, I'd half think that I was a bit of a fruity as well. Do you know what I mean?
Careful.
I just think it's something that we need to address, and I think it's something that we need to sort out. And as I said, those two pillars, you either wait for your whole life for something to happen for you, and I hate to say it, harsh reality is no one out here is doing you favours. The world is not here for you. You are here to make an improvement to the world. And if you're still at home at 30, God help you, but go and find a way, move out, go and live on the street for a year. It'd be better for you. Trust me, it would. It'd toughen you up. Go and live on the street for a year. You'd soon find a house. You'd soon find a way.
Yeah, of course you would. But then there's, I mean, the only other element which is before some of that is, you know, the freedom of learning how to drive. I mean, I'm sure the rates of people learning to drive have gone, you know, way up. I don't know the statistics, but I'm sure, you know, it was a lot when we were learning to drive. A lot of people were just straight the minute they turned 17. It was like, I want to learn to drive. Now, I was a bit later, but still 19, and I think you were probably similar, 18 maybe when you learned. And it's like, you know, I know people that are still 23, 24 that haven't learned to drive, and it's like, again, you haven't even got that element of freedom that you can just jump in a car and drive somewhere and just go and explore and go and do your own thing. I mean, in America, it's a lot more of a thing where they just get in a car and like, where we going then, family? And it's like, we don't really, I'm sure they probably don't announce it like that. But like, you know, they'll get in the car and they'll just drive like for an hour, 2 hours, and just go on a road trip. And it's like they just go somewhere, and it's just to explore and just to go see what's out there. And I don't think people really do that anymore over here, but it's that sense of adventure, which I think is important, because that's what we want. We want to be able to explore, and that was the whole reason the whole world was founded, and Christopher Columbus, and I'm probably going on a right tangent now, but, you know, we've got to have that sense of discovery and sense that we can do anything. I think that's why America's a lot better as well, because they do have that whole, you can be anything you want to be, and that's why they're the greatest country on earth, because they believe that, and if they put the work in, they'll get there.
But it all starts with leadership and self-accountability. So
yeah,
you said America as an example, but you know, America's really were the starters of this whole woke movement.
Well, yeah.
And again, it stems down from leadership. And I think, again, if you've got a leader at the top of the pack leading it, that's taking you down
upstairs,
who can't walk upstairs, who fumbles his words, can't get a sentence out, and he's the one leading the free world, and he encourages men to be,
not men, I suppose, sit down, shut up, and
to be soft and to be weak, and allow for gender reaffirming surgeries to take place and take precedent and to be discussed and say it's normal, which, yeah, of course, look, in certain circumstances, I don't want to take away from the fact there are people out there that genuinely believe they are a different sex to what they were born as. I take no issue with people like that at all. You know, I feel for them, because I think the reality is they would, I think, in a natural progression of the world, if you're a woman, you want to be a woman. If you're born a man, you want to be a man. That's really just how things should be. You know, if everyone was trans and gay, we'd all die as a species. That's just the reality. We would die. We would need to have children and procreate, and you can only do that with a natural born straight male and a natural born straight female coming together and having a child. That is scientific fact that cannot be argued. Now, I'm not taking away from people that feel different and have that mindset. That's fine. It's just when it's pushed and encouraged.
Exactly. Look, if you want to dress up as a horse and like as things in your own time, then that's more up to you. But it's when it gets pushed on the rest of us, and you get guilt tripped into thinking, you know, that's normal and we're weird. It's like, hang on a minute. The Garden of Eden was with two different people, you know, Adam and Eve. wasn't like Adam and Eve and, you know, the Cyclops.
Adam and Steve is usually the one they say, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's like, go back to leadership. So again, we need strong leadership, and I don't want to start romanticising Trump, because again, the minute I do that, everybody jumps on this bandwagon of saying, "Oh, he's a fascist, he's this, he's a racist, he's a sex offender, he's this," and I'm okay, I'm sure some of those are founded in truth. I'm sure some of them, you know, he's an egotistical. He's a very arrogant and confident man in his own ability, and probably overly confident in certain scenarios. And he's probably blindly so up his own arse that I'm surprised he can see 2 feet in front of him. That doesn't stop him from being a leader that gets shit done. He's reduced the immigration issue of illegal migrants coming into America down to pretty much zero. He's prevented a war with India and Pakistan. He's now, and I'm not saying he's the only person. So again, everybody's going to jump on all of this and say, "Oh, it's not just Donald, or he's not done anything." But whilst he's in power, things have happened that weren't happening when the other president was in power with Biden. Now, Israel, Palestine has also come to an end. Working on Ukraine and Russia, there was another couple of issues that have then since taken place that he's helped prevent. He's destroyed some of the drug narco traffickers that were coming into the US. He's helped bring that down and destroy that problem.
Iran with the nuclear bases and things that all got destroyed. That is airstrike that people were like, "Oh, you're going to cause World War III." Lo and behold, that's all seemed to have gone quiet because he's actually improved on the situation and made the world a safer place. And it's like, oh, actually that works, so we'll keep quiet now.
He's taken a strong masculine approach to problems, whereas Biden was very strongly feminine in it. It was very diplomatic. It was, we can't make a move that is seen to be offensive. We can't make a move that seems to be unfair. We have to treat everybody equally. We can't hurt people. We can't hurt their feelings. We can't also cause any pain or inflict any sort of harm to anyone. But then when you find yourself being that person that can't make a decision and you're acting on this basis of trying to please everyone, the reality is you can never please all the people all the time. And you've got to do something. You've got to take action. And if you're in this constant state of limbo because you can't make a decision for making a decision, because every decision will ultimately hurt or harm someone in some way, then nothing gets done. And clearly we could see that since Trump has taken the presidency, that he has gotten shit done, and he has tried to restore this masculine sense of men being men again, eliminating men from women's sports, eliminating men from women's jails, creating once again a harmony or a divide between women and male, and then not just sort of shooting down and saying that doesn't mean women are worthless, it doesn't mean men are better. It's not that way. It's they both work in simpatico to create a really strong team and a strong bond, not one's better than the other.
I think, yeah, and also he's catered to the majority of people as opposed to the fringes and the minority of people, which doesn't seem to make any logical sense to me at all. And he's also, you've gone from, in America, someone who's self-flatulating with the way that he acts to someone who's inspiring and say, no, we are, you know, MAGA hats, you know, make America great again. Great. Like you'd be like, oh, God, I want to make America great again. I can follow that. Now, I think in the UK, on the flip side, we've had people come and go, we've got a $20 billion pound black hole, the country's in the state, we're going to have to bolt down the hatch, like everything's just doom and gloom, like everything's rubbish, like coming from the top of the tree. And it's just flowed all the way down to society where everyone just goes, oh, right, yeah, well, I don't want to spend any money then. Flipping hell, this is all rubbish. Oh, I might claim more benefits. Oh, God, it's all going to get rubbish. Oh, rubbish. And lo and behold, we can see it all in data that then comes through, that people just think confidence is low, businesses like confidence is low, consumer spending down, people are just all down. Whereas in America, they're growing like 3% GDP per year, and we're at about 0.3. And it's because now they've turned it around a bit where they've got someone at the top where it's saying, no, we can do it. You can build a business. Come here, come to America. We're open, like, and actually mean it, instead of Keir Starmer who goes, yeah, we're open, doesn't have a clue what the word means. But, you know, it's about having someone who you want to follow. Like, you know, I even speak to people about the army. I was like, oh, if we ever got into some sort of conflict, would you, you know, fight for the flag or fight for the country? They're like, nah, I ain't doing that. And I'm like, if you haven't even got people that are willing to fight for the country and the country you live in, I think that's a slippery slope.
Well, the reality is, it's that what used to be fighting for queen and country, now king and country. And again, that is where leadership stems from. I saw this great quote where being a great leader, I feel like I'm going to actually have to go and check on this because I don't want to mess it up. And I've always got a list of really good quotes that are that are always at hand when I need to pull on them. A good leader inspires people to have confidence in the leader, but a great leader inspires people to have confidence in themselves. And I think that sums it up really nicely, because most leaders that we've got nowadays are just constantly vying for you to believe in them and not believe in yourself, and then not creating any plans or not creating any hope, which is a great word you use, to be able to think, do you know what, actually, if I work hard and put the effort in and do something, I can actually win. There's actually an opportunity for me to win. Whereas at the minute, it kind of feels like we're in a casino and the house always wins no matter what I do. HMRC win no matter what I do. Somebody else wins no matter what I do. They're going to tax me higher. Oh, right, all these rich people, get rid of them. We hate them. We're going to tax them. Right, well, what's the incentive for me to becoming rich then? Well, from there up, boys, we just got to be a really good person, and you got to do it to help everyone else. But then when you need remuneration from it, we're going to take it off you and say, well, you've got enough, so we're going to give it to other people that you don't know, and we're not going to tell you where it's gone or what we've spent it on, but we can guarantee that it'll be wasted.
Well, this is
that's what we do. So you think, right, well, I'll work super hard for somebody else other than myself and my family, just so the government can take it off me and spend it on shit.
Parties during Brexit.
Yeah, good deal, that. I'm really happy for that. I'm really excited to now start a new business venture in the UK. And like I said, so leadership, men. But as men, you are leaders of your own group and yourself. So people think that, well, I can't be a leader or I'm not a leader. But going back to what I've just said, like, being a good leader inspires others to think that you're good, but you should be inspiring others to believe that they're great. And if you can inspire your friend group, you've all got friends, you've all got family, you've all got people that work with you, alongside you, below you, perhaps above you even. Just because someone's above you in an organisation doesn't mean that you can't lead them. But everybody's so caught up on titles and things. And again, men need to understand that we are the leaders, and not to, whether it's in your relationship, again, it's for us to take the lead. And if there's a problem in the relationship, don't shy away from the problem and say, well, it's not my fault. Everything's your fault. You're a man. It's your fault. Find a way to take responsibility, learn from it and fix it, and put a problem in place and take that responsibility on and lead, not blame everyone else, which I think is a big problem.
Yeah, and for me, it's, on that point of, you don't have to be the leader to be a leader. It's a bit like football teams, isn't it? There's people who've got the captain's armband, but a bit like, Ryan Giggs and things like that, when he was like, back a day when he wasn't a captain, everyone in the dressing room was always like, oh yeah, right, we'd speak to him, and he's like, commanding respect from around the dressing room. He wasn't necessarily the captain, but people wanted to follow him and had him as an example because of how he was in his demeanour and the workload that he put in.
Summed it up nicely.
There you go.
I think it's important. Stop blaming Bonnie Blue. Stop blaming women. Stop blaming OnlyFans creators. Stop blaming everybody else. Stop blaming the government. Stop blaming your teachers. Stop blaming your surroundings. Stop blaming your friends. Stop blaming what resources you've got. There are people, there's a great quote from Leon Edwards when he won the UFC welterweight title. And he looked directly into the camera and said that he was born in a shed with a zinc roof in Jamaica with nothing. And he's now the UFC welterweight champion of the world.
Look at me now.
Look at me now. You got it. Look at me now. If he can do that, and you're complaining because you're born on a council estate and you've only got an iPhone 11 rather than the iPhone 17, shut the fuck up. Really, shut the fuck up. Go outside, find a way to get it done, and become a man and stop behaving like a boy. Simple as that.
Exactly. I'm all for it.
That'll be all. Thanks for watching. Big episode on the importance of being a man. And look, if you're watching this and you've been offended by anything we've said, and more than likely you are still a boy and you've got lots to learn. So grow up, hit subscribe, and stay with us on a journey for more. Look forward to seeing you in the next one.